Hi, everyone. We're,
Hello.
we're so happy to be here, and we would like to thank the Voices for Children of San Antonio and the Child Care Group for having us here and hosting us. We are so excited to present to you guys, and um, we're excited to uh, present our books and talk to you and hear what you guys have to say because, again, you are on the front lines.
And we also want to thank the team at Nowcast who has helped us navigate this very new technology to us. This is pretty exciting. This is the largest online presentation we've ever given, so please be patient if there are any technical glitches. For most of the rest of the presentation, you'll be seeing our slideshow. We'll be minimized so that you can see the PowerPoint presentation clearly, but you'll hear our voices. I'm Susan, and
I'm Courtenay.
And so with no further ado, I think we're going to switch to the slideshow now. So
okay, let me
enjoy. And Courtenay illustrated our slides too. So
so hopefully it all works.
Present PowerPoint presentations.
Okay, so here we go. Let's.
We are now sharing.
I'm sharing. There we go. Yay!
Oh,
it worked.
And we are still visible on screen. So there. Now we're gone. Okay, good. Now you can see the whole slide. This is Susan. I'm just going to. Many of the slides I will read, or Courtenay will read the entire slide, because we know sometimes people step away from their computers, or just if you're more of an auditory learner than a visual learner, it helps to hear the information. So if that is redundant to those of you who are reading the slides, please bear with us. We just want to help everybody to have the best experience they can. So the title of the presentation is Bibliotherapy and Social Emotional Arts, Using Books and Creativity to Help Children Deal with Stormy Emotion. And Inner Flower Child Books is actually the publishing company that Courtenay and I founded in 2012. All right, next slide.
Right. So yes, as Susan mentioned, this is our publishing company. These are our titles that we've worked on, and all of them have themes that are healing and inspiring to children. So we're going to continue talking because right now there are so many challenges, as the speakers have mentioned. There are so many challenges we're going through in our normal daily life, but now that we have this pandemic, we're impacted by the shelter in place. We can't be with the people that we love. There are people who are dealing with financial struggles and displacement, and the social isolation, not being able to hug the people we love. It's really taking a toll, not only us adults, but the children. So while we wear many hats, Susan and I were publishers, authors, illustrators. One of the hats that we don't wear is we are not licensed therapists. So we just wanted to say that it's really important that in the course of doing expressive arts with the children, if it reveals a deeper issue that you don't feel equipped to handle, or if it brings up something in you that you can't really, or you feel overwhelmed, that you have a licensed psychologist or a social worker that you can refer the problem to or that you can turn to. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that we're not licensed psychologists. So have that person handy, somebody who can really help you.
Okay, so the learning objectives. By the end of this workshop, participants will be able to define bibliotherapy. Participants will learn how to identify at least 3 ways that picture books can facilitate children's social emotional learning. You'll be able to name 3 or more resources for finding appropriate issues books to facilitate young children's social emotional learning. Participants will be able to name at least 3 social emotional arts activities that can be used independently or combined with picture books to facilitate emotional healing and social emotional learning. And you'll be able to identify 2 reasons why expressive arts are useful for social emotional development. Obviously, we have over 1,000 people in the room from all over and from different fields. Many of you are early childhood educators, others are in elementary school. Everybody's coming to the table with different experience and background. So we're hoping that this will give everybody at least a little bit of new information and refresh things that you've learned in the past, and that you'll find it interesting and entertaining too. All right.
So we will be, we have a lot of great resources that we refer to in this presentation and links. And what we're going to do is compile them all and into a resource packet, and we'll send it to you early next week. This is an example of one of the resources that we will have for you, the Heartfelt Books Bibliotherapy Guide. There's so many great lists of books for issues. So we'll be sending that to you sometime early next week.
Books, creativity, and healing. So how did we begin? As an author-illustrator team, Courtenay and I frequently visit schools, preschools, elementary schools, even sometimes middle schools and high schools, to give educational assemblies and workshops about the creative process behind our books. We're like a visiting author and illustrator. But we realized as we were reading our books that the content of them, which is intended to help kids experiencing loss, separation, trauma, was putting us in a really unique position, that we were delivering social emotional content, not just here's what an author and illustrator do. So we just started exploring more and working with more professionals and really fleshing that out more.
And like most everybody on this planet, our journey has not been a point A to point B straight line. Ours is more like that bottom line. And I'm sure some of you have too. Life is full of ups and downs and twists and turns. But how did we get here to being an author and illustrator?
Oh, first of all, I was actually born in Texas. I lived in Houston till I was 10. I have very fond memories of visiting my grandparents in Galveston at the beach. My parents moved around a lot. And when I was 10, we moved to California. So about every year or two, we would move to a different house. So that's part of my background that has influenced my books. I was an English major. I did my bachelor's at UCLA and my master's at Yale. And then I did my teaching credentials at Pepperdine University in California. And I put down here, feeling my feelings is my superpower. I am a published poet. It took me a long time to realize that being highly emotional was a superpower. But I'm all in now. A poet and children's book author. And I really feel once I realized that, and also realized that as a highly emotional person, I needed a lot of outlets to process my emotions so that they didn't end up as a storm inside of me that was running the show. That really made a difference in my life. I do art, dance, I sculpt, I spend a lot of time in nature, because otherwise I start spinning with all the emotions that I'm having. So now I channel them into my art and my creativity, and that's my story.
And my background is I'm a country kid. I am a fifth generation Californian. My grandfather was a pioneer homesteader up in Northern California. So I grew up in the country on horseback and hiking through nature. And so nature has always been a wonderful resource for me to go to when I'm feeling down. I attended UC Berkeley and then decided that I wanted to go into art. So I was persuaded by one of my high school art teachers to go to Art Center College of Design. So I got a Bachelor's of Fine Art in graphic design and advertising design, and spent many years working as an advertising art director in New York and Chicago. Actually, I did a little bit of work down in Austin, Texas for an agency there. And then I moved into photography because I've kind of got tired of advertising, and book design. And it's just, again, like the journey. The journey was twists and turns. And then eventually ended up here as an illustrator, which is my dream job. I love it. Working with Susan is an amazing, taking her words and turning them into beautiful pictures it's a dream job. So I have to say that my motto in life is journey your journey. So everything that you come across is something you can put into your back pocket, and you might be able to use it later. So that's kind of how, we moved around a lot. I don't know what it was about the 70s. Maybe there's something in the air. But like Susan, my family was very nomadic. We moved around a lot. And when I mean a lot, in 7th grade, I went to 3 different middle schools. So that's a lot. That's kind of excessive. And it caused so much anxiety in me. I was always the new kid. I would have these like panic attacks before I'd start school. Um, and there was also a lot of like background trauma going on in my family. So I used books and I used art as a way of escaping and dealing with some of the feelings I was having. So, and I think it made me more resilient in life. My sister and I call ourselves rock hoppers because we're able to hop from rock to rock depending on the situation. So it actually, I feel that the journey through all of that has made me a more resilient person in life, and I'm kind of grateful for that. I'm feeling grateful.
Yep.
But all of that comes together. Susan's background, my background, all comes together when she and I met in a Mommy and Me class when our youngest, or I actually only have one daughter, but her youngest son and my daughter were in a Mommy and Me class when they were teeny tiny in our community center. And they ended up going through schools together up until high school. And Susan and I were lucky enough to be able to be actively involved in their lives in elementary school. We volunteered, we were art docents, we did science projects with the school, we co-ran a 4-H club for all of the kids. We were constantly doing creative projects both in and outside of school, and we became great friends. And we realized that a lot of the way that we looked at the world and used the things around us to help us heal and be creative were the same things. We both loved art. We both loved science. We both loved to go to the museums and dancing and reading and doing and writing and listening to music. And we're inspired by our families. So that made our bond even tighter, and it led to us being able to create our first book, right? I mean, we love nature and we go into nature, and that's one of the things where we both find nature as a healing resource for us. So
that really gives you, no, I was just going to say that really gives you the background for the next slide,
right?
Which is Two Sad Moms Make a Book. So in 2011, I was going through a very painful divorce, and as Courtney mentioned, I have 2 sons, and so that was really hard on all of us. And Courtney had just lost a very dear friend to breast cancer, and her friend had a 5-year-old child. So, when we were together as friends, we were, going to ceramics class and talking a lot and supporting each other through tough times, as friends will do. And I was telling her how sad I was feeling, a lot of trauma around missing my younger son, especially. And so early in 2012, she remembered a story that her mother had told her once, which was that when she was little, if they would look up at the moon, they could send each other kisses and hugs through the moon. And that just appealed to me as a poet so much. And I went home, and this book, a poem, it was started as a poem, just poured through me. And I sent the poem to Courtney, and she couldn't resist illustrating some of the verses. And before we knew it, we had a book. And we just kept moving forward with that. And the purpose of the book was to reassure children that they are always connected and always loved. And no matter how physically apart they are from their loved ones, whether it's, mom's on a business trip or grandma died, whether it's a small separation or a permanent loss, we wanted kids to know that love is still there between them. We have, as you see, we've recently come out with Besos de Sol, Abrazos de Luna, a bilingual Spanish-English version of the book. We do a lot of school visits here in Los Angeles, and we have a large Spanish-speaking population, and we were getting a lot of requests, so we were really excited to come out with that just last fall. The book, because it's in Spanish and English, it really serves as a bridge for families who speak both languages in their household or may have relatives somewhere else that only speak Spanish. So we really wanted to have that to increase the level of connection. So after we did the book, we were getting it out there, and this is an exciting book in our list that LeVar Burton, through a mommy, we sent the sun kisses to a mommy blogger who had premature twins, and one had died and one had survived. And she loved Sun Kisses because it gave her a way to help her surviving twin feel connected to his twin that had passed. And she loved the book. I met her in Orange County, and we donated books to the NICU where her sons had been. And while we were talking, she said, my best friend works with LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow, and I would love to send them your book. And I said, that would be wonderful. And a week later, LeVar called us in, and we met him, and he invited us to collaborate on a book to help children who were coping with trauma. And that book is The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm. So we will be primarily focusing on Sun Kisses, Moon Hugs at the top of the hour, a little bit of Rhino as it relates to bibliotherapy. And then after the break, we'll be talking more about some of the trauma coping skills that are embedded in The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm. So moving on to
bibliotherapy. Books can help heal. So there's a line in Rhino book, "We're safe, Mika. This storm will pass soon," said Papa. "Would you like me to read you a story? I know just the one to help you feel better." In this book, LeVar is Papa Mouse. LeVar is the voice of Papa Mouse. It's his advice is to turn off the news, turn off your devices, sit down with your child and read them a book. And it's a wonderful way of making a connection with your child, helping them feel comforted. And The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm, it provides a resource for families coping with traumatic events. It's based on his show, The Reading Rainbow, where there was an issue that they would talk about, and then LeVar would find a book that would address that issue. So we decided to create the book as a story within a story, like a Reading Rainbow episode. So that's how the book was kind of set up. That was done on purpose. And then at the end of the book, we've created questions that will help create a dialogue between a parent and child, or the caregiver and child, so that you can kind of ask them questions and bring things up. So,
yep.
Here we go. Yeah, sorry, I hit that too soon. So anyway, this theme of feeling connected, healing, that goes through all of our books. Our next book was The Big Adventures of Tiny House, and so we explored the whole concept of home. Like, as Susan and I were moving around a lot as children, are you really at home if you're moving around? So that we kind of figured that we were both, as children, we're tiny, that we're not sure if we're a home if we're not stuck tight. But then, as we've become resilient adults, we are now big truck. But yeah, so this book will kind of deals with the issue of, it's good for foster care children who are moving around a lot, or homeless children. Our next book was The Artist Who Loved Cats, which is it's a picture book biography of an artist from Paris in the 1890s, Théophile Stenlin. And so this book kind of encourages and inspires self-expression, because the artist himself decided to leave his job as a textile artist and become a fine artist and an illustrator. And there's a line from the book: he didn't use fists or weapons or words. Instead, he chose art to make his voice heard. He not only did illustrations, but he also did art that protested the cruelties of war, protested poverty. So he really focused his art on the common man and what the issues that they were going through. So,
all right, and then my novel Inspired, which came out in 2018, took 24 years to finish it. So Sun Kisses was 9 months from start to publication, and Inspired was 24 years. So never give up on a dream. And the main character in that book is a girl she's a teenager, and she is still grieving the loss of her father, and she has a friend who has been through a tragedy of his own, and they are finding their voice through creativity and the Greek muses, and learning to heal through the power of story and music and poetry. So if you know any teenagers, that might be good for them. But as you can see, our themes really all run into helping and healing children. So bibliotherapy. Books promote social emotional health. Again, I'm going to read this. It's a lot of information. Bibliotherapy can assist children in overcoming problems by having them read stories about characters who have successfully resolved a dilemma similar to their own. The goals of bibliotherapy are to help children identify and validate their feelings, realize that other children have problems similar to their own, stimulate discussion, foster thought and self-awareness, discover possible coping skills and solutions, and decide on a constructive course of action. You're probably all already doing this in your classrooms, because we all know that picture books are just a great way to help kids relate to other characters, foster empathy, and we'll be going into more detail about that. But that's a good overview of what bibliotherapy is. So what is social emotional health? Within the context of one's family, community, and cultural background, social and emotional health is the child's developing capacity to form secure relationships, experience and regulate emotions, explore, and learn. So that's just a good working definition of social emotional health. And we'll be talking more about how the arts really help with that too.
So under the umbrella of social emotional learning, there are many things that that people are doing, that organizations are doing across the country to kind of foster this in our children. But we're really going to focus on how books and expressive or social emotional arts can help kids identify and process their emotions. They can learn social emotional skills such as self-regulation, empathy, making responsible decisions. And when they work together, they're really powerful. They kind of reinforce the messages. So you probably are all bibliotherapists already, because you're probably reading and recommending books to kids with particular issues in your classrooms or in your programs. And if you use books to teach kids social emotional skills such as kindness, empathy, and resilience. So when we pick up a picture book or a book in general for a child and read to them, we are all bibliotherapists. Biblio just means book, plus the therapy, it means using books in a therapeutic way. And picture books are good for any age. I mean, you don't have to be a child. I love picture books, but yeah, you don't have to be a child to love picture books. A child 5 or a child 12 can get the same picture book while they can enjoy the same picture book while understanding it in dramatically different but equally valid ways. And if you just take 10 or 15 minutes of reading time, you can present these complex issues to groups of students, and you can foster rich conversations, get them thinking about the issues, that their feelings, their emotions. For example, we have a wonderful principal that we work with who had an 8th grade student who was dealing with some behavioral issues. So she took The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm and gave that girl the book, but she didn't say, I want you to read this, I want you to get the message. She said, oh, can you go down to the 1st grade class and can you read this to them, or can you read this to a specific child? So she did it indirectly. She had the 8th grader focusing the reading on a small child, but then absorbing the message herself. So that's actually a really great way to kind of indirectly help a child that maybe it's not cool to read a picture book, but that, yeah.
Yep.
And adults.
I'm up. Even adults can find healing benefits. So we've had several really kind of powerful moments where adults told us that as they were reading the book to their child, or as they heard it at one of our assemblies, it really impacted them. And I think that's all of us have an inner child that
needs to be read to.
Needs to be reassured. And yeah, so this is a quote from Amazon that has just stuck with me for over a year now. I got this to help my niece cope with the death of her mother, but I found it helped me cope with the loss of my sister just as much. It might be written as a children's book, but I've been recommending it to anyone who's lost someone they love. So a lot of times the children in your classes are dealing with very complex family issues. And so the books that you're recommending for them might not just be healing the child, but really have an impact on the whole family. So it's something to think about how what you're doing in the classroom really does extend to the whole family. And just a little thing to point out. So is this one me too? I set down my reading at home works. All right, so this is something I'm sure you all know, that the more you can encourage your families to read to their children at home, the better, like for everybody. Like, yes, definitely fill your classroom with books, but if there's a way to get books into the hands of the families, that will just help in so many ways. Studies show children show dramatic cognitive gains, form more secure attachments, and develop empathy and experience lifelong improved learning skills when they're read to. We've all heard, how drastically vocabulary is expanded when kids are read to, but it also has these wonderful social emotional benefits in terms of attachment and empathy and kindness. It's just so good all around. So there are a lot of programs that can help get books to your community, and I'm sure the agencies hosting this event and your representatives might have more ideas, but reach out and read. First Book, Pajamas and Books, and Riff, Reading's Fundamental, all have great book donation programs.
And if there is an issue, there is a book for it. We're in a very rich time right now where many issues are getting publications that specifically deal. So it's whether it's the first day of school, the anxiety of a first day of school, or some child's dealing with shyness or racism, self-esteem, gender issues. If there is an issue, there's a book for it. Mm-hmm. And here's just a small sampling of the books that you can find for issues. And to find those books, there are wonderful places to look. I mean, if you're into Pinterest, you all know that there's just boards and boards of lists of books.
Great picture books.
Yeah, great picture books. We have some on Inner Flower Child books on ours, but there's a plethora of out there. You can also ask a librarian. I know that libraries are closed in a lot of places right now, but they do have online resources that you can probably access. Also, the ALA.org, the American Library Association, has bibliotherapy guides. You can also go to, if there's an issue, you can go to the specific organizations that are dealing with those issues. For example, like the National Association for Childhood Grief. They all have bibliotherapy lists or books lists. And there's also childrensbooksheals.com, which is a great review site. They frequently put up lists of books for issues. So if you need a book, they're out there for you to find.
Okay, so we wanted to include a couple slides that are particularly focused on military families. I know Texas is a big military state, and so many of you might be working with children coming from military families. And they experience high rates of trauma, psychological stress, anxiety, sense of loss, depression, anger, changes in school performance. Sometimes returning veterans may suffer from high levels of PTSD, which has an impact on the whole family. The family dynamics can change significantly upon deployment or the service member's return. So there's a lot of shifting circumstances in the family. There is also a lot of resilience in military families, especially when the families access support in their communities, which there is an abundance of that. So there are some sites that specifically have books to help military families with their unique situations, like deployment. And so we've listed a few. Again, all of these links will be in the resource packet, so you don't have to scribble down notes too much. We'll be sending that. You can if you want. Some people like to scribble down notes, but we will be sending you a resource packet with all these links.
Okay, so now we're going to invite you to chat. This is
I know some of you
chat.
have been chatting away already.
Yes,
This is a more focused chat.
I can't see any of the chats. So but we would like you to put in your favorite. I don't know what is in my throat. Pardon me. Please put in your favorite bibliotherapy books in the chat and maybe name the book and the issue, which helps kids cope. Bonus points if you have an expressive arts activity that you like to do with it. And so that'd be great because we love to look at your ideas and see what you guys are using in the classrooms or in your programs. And then, as an added incentive, we will be picking 5 people out of the chats today to send autographed copies of The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm, which is not in print right now. You can't really get the book. I mean, we have a
We're
small
going to give you a
supply.
link to a free e-copy, but the book
Yes.
in hardcover is hard to find at the moment.
So this will be a real live book in your hand. So please chat away, put those in there, and we're excited to see what you guys have to say.
I'm seeing some great, just Courtney, kiss goodnight in Spanish, llama llama, mad at mama, good
Oh,
night
yes, I love
moon,
that.
the invisible string, I know Patrice, kissing hand, Pete the cat. So thank you. Keep those coming. We're going to be compiling those. I think with the help of Voices for SA, we'll be trying to pull out a list from what we see in the chat. So we'll get that out to you too, so you know what some of your colleagues have recommended.
Okay. You know, another great resource for kids right now because they can't be, we're all separated. They can't be with their loved ones is an app called Caribu. It's a wonderful app that connects through a video call the child with the person they're missing. And you can read books through it, you can do activities, you can do drawings, and it's just a nice way for a child to connect with their parent or their caregiver or the parent that may be deployed or a grandparent that's across the country or a friend even if you guys they want to read books together. And it's always free to Blue Star military families. It's always free. So that's a great resource.
Yep. And this summer, it's actually free for everyone.
Right.
Since the pandemic started, they've actually got a grant and they've been making it available for free for everybody to help people stay connected. And our books are all in the app, so we're super excited about that. And the Rhino Swallowed a Storm that we did with LeVar actually did a special recorded reading of him reading the book. And so,
Yeah,
so kids can hear somebody read it to them. They can be on at the same time as a loved one coloring, doing activities. Right. It's just a more engaged way. Okay. And then
so speaking a little bit more about sun kisses, again, the book is a universal message of love is what the book's about. I mean, it's not just a good bedtime story, and you can use it for that, but it's also just really comforting for children who are dealing with separation anxiety, maybe first day of school, again, parent, anytime they're separated from the person they love, people that they love, there's a comforting message. And we didn't put in it any specific issue. So you can use it and you can use it for multiple issues. And it's basically letting the child know that they're connected through nature to the one they love. So there's always that connection, even if you can't physically be with the person right next to you. So it's being used in many, many places.
These are just a few of the places our book's being used. It might be helpful to know that these kinds of programs are out there because they may be something you can access for some families that you're working with. Sun Kisses is being used in a lot of programs to help incarcerated parents stay connected to their kids. There are these wonderful programs where the incarcerated men or women record themselves reading a story that is then sent to their child on the outside. I've been fortunate enough to volunteer to go to a couple of these recording sessions, and it's just really heartwarming how much, these men and women love their kids and want to stay connected, and stories are a way for them to do that in a really beautiful way. So this is me at Tehachapi Men's Prison with some of the men there. And then the kindergarten. Oh, and one more thing on that. They've done studies that show that when children are able to connect in some way, either visiting or with these stories, to incarcerated parents, they just have much better outcomes themselves. As you can imagine, like they feel more loved and connected, and so that affects their whole life. Kinder Crate, raise your hand in the chat. 1,900 teachers who subscribe to something called Kinder Crate actually received Sun Kisses in their May package. It's a subscription program, and that's because it was a good way for parents or teachers who were trying to teach from home to their students via online Zoom or however. It was a way for them to read and connect to their kids in the class and at home. And then Ask Amy. This was we were kind of like really surprised one day about a year or two ago when all of a sudden we started getting phone calls because Amy Dickinson recommended our book in her Ask Amy column to a grandmother who was really worried about how to comfort her kids as they were going through, how to comfort her grandchildren as they were going through their parents' divorce. So divorce and child life specialist at children's hospitals. We work with a lot of bibliotherapists at children's hospitals to go in and do readings. And so pictures books are just being used in so many settings to help children.
Right. Speaking of children, we're going to ask you all right now for this next portion of the presentation to tap into your inner child. We're gonna move into the story time portion. But before we do that, I know we've been sitting for a little bit. We're going to do this is something that we do when we visit schools and the kids have been sitting for our presentation and they've got a lot of wiggles. So I know it's good to get up and just kind of get the blood flowing. So we're going to do a sun kisses moon hugs stretch.
And I know we can't see you, but we can feel the energy.
I can feel you guys. Yeah. So here's what we say. We say, as an author and illustrator, we're using our hands a lot. So let's wiggle our hands. Everybody wiggle your hands. Flick your fingers, kind of get the blood flowing, Make an X with your fingers, cross your fingers over, make an X, maybe make an O, make a heart. These are things that kids like to do, make an X, an O, a heart. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stand up. Everybody get up out of your chair, off your couch, wherever you're
doing it at home.
We're doing it. All right, so stand up and reach your arms out and your legs out and make an X with your body. And just reach for the sun. Reach, move your body. Stretch that out. Now, take your hands over your head and make an O like a ballerina. And then, so that's your hug. Bring it down in front of you and bring your arms down in front of you. And then take your arms in and just wrap them around your body and give yourself a hug, because sometimes if there's nobody around to give you a hug and you need one, you just need to know that you can give yourself one. Pat yourself on the back. Yep. We all need to take care of ourselves. We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot with the kids, so we need to make sure. So let's do that again.
We're should we do some calisthenics?
Yes. Okay. So now you're going to make an X, and you're going to make an O, and then you make an X. And then you make an O. X, O, X, O, X,
essentially doing jumping jacks.
Oh, X, O, X, O, X, O. Okay. I don't want anybody to throw their back out or something. So, like me, I always throw my back out. All right. So good. Now we got the blood flowing. Whew. We're feeling better. Let's sit down and get ready for story time. So when you're doing story time, it's, this is just intuitive. You sit down, you get a cozy little routine going. And when we are talking to students, we lead a little brief guided discussion before we start the book, because we want them to kind of get in the right mind frame. So we say, sometimes, we can't be right next to the person that we love, but we're going to read you this story. And it's about how you can send love to the people that you're missing and how they can send it back to you, so we can feel, even when we're apart, we can feel that we love each other. So everybody think about somebody that you might be missing, that you love and you might be missing, and pretend that person is reading this book to you. Okay, so
you're welcome to put that in the chat if something is coming up for you. This is not just about healing children. It, as Courtenay says, we're all in need of some love and connection right now. So feel free to put your feelings out there.
Feel your feelings.
Definitely. All right. So now we're going to read the book.
Okay. Whoops. That means that I need to advance the slide.
There we go. Sun kisses, moon hugs. No matter how far apart we are, I'll always find ways to tell you I love you.
How?
From wherever we stand, you see the moon and I see the moon. That is how we can send each other hugs.
Moon hugs?
Yes, moon hugs.
But the moon doesn't have any arms.
It's true, the moon cannot reach down to hold your hand, but she is strong enough to pull waves onto sand. Her invisible arms rock the tides by night and day, like my love holds you safely when I am away.
What if the moon is just a sliver?
Still she will deliver an entire quiver full of love. However small and thin the moon might seem, the hugs we send always make her beam.
What if there's no moon in sight?
Close your eyes and imagine it bright, and love will dance in your dreams tonight.
But when I wake up, the moon will be gone.
Ah, but then we can send each other kisses by dawn. When you open your eyes and see the sun rise, just do this. Blow a kiss. All right, everybody, blow a kiss up towards the sun right now.
All right.
The sun will catch your kiss and use light speed to forward it right on to me. I'll send 1,000,000 kisses back your way. You'll feel my love in each warm ray.
But what if...
I know what you're about to say. What if the sky is cloudy or gray? Love travels through raindrops and waters the ground, flows into rivers and oceans all around. When the sky clears and the sun joins the show, our kisses, like wishes, will slide down rainbows. You know what else is true? Every ladybug and butterfly, each dandelion and daisy that catches your eye or flutters by is saying that I'm crazy about you. From the heavens above to earth below, there are infinite ways to say hello. Love is in each star twinkling in space and every frosty snowflake tickling your face. Throw your arms around a tree, I'll hug you and you'll hug me. Each grain of sand means I'm in reach when you're playing on the beach. I'm leaving signs to show I care, like the wind whispering through your hair. Whenever I miss you, I will find a way to hug and kiss you. See these letters X and O? They're another way for us to show something forever true. You love me and I love you. Hugs by moon and kisses by sun, I'll always love you, little one.
The end.
And I forgot to mention, but Courtenay has hidden X's and O's and hearts in lots of the illustrations, so it's kind of fun to sit and find them with kids.
Some are hard and some are hidden.
Yep. Anyway, so after reading the book, we would do a little just check-in, and if you can focus your questions in more of a social emotional way instead of, what was the title, those questions are important too, the cognitive questions, but asking feeling questions. What do you think the characters are feeling? How would you solve the problem? How does this relate to you? Have you ever felt this way? Giving open-ended questions enable children to talk about their own experiences, learn new vocabulary words, and practice. I think that got cut out, but practice empathy and kindness, I think is what.
I did. I'm sorry.
And we'll have the link to the NAEYC article on bibliotherapy.
So picture books and art. Yes. So again, when you combine the bibliotherapy with the social emotional arts, it's a wonderful tool for learning in the classroom, especially when the art activity is reinforcing the theme of the book. So for Sun Kisses, Moon Hugs, we created several art activities. One that we're going to do today that we worked with A Window Between Worlds, which is an organization here in Los Angeles that uses art to help women and children who were in domestic violence shelters and in domestic violence situations kind of access their feelings and work through their feelings. So we're going to we're going to do that art project, but we want to remind you of something.
Yes. First, remember it's about the process of making art, not the product. And that goes for any age. When you're doing social emotional arts, you really don't want to worry about whether this is something you're going to hang in a museum or on your wall. It's the experience of making art is what's important. So don't ever let that inner critic stop you. So expressive arts is about the journey, not the destination. It doesn't matter if you are good at art, dance, music, writing, poetry, theater, meditation. There really is no good or bad in this arena. What matters is the experience, the process of allowing your feelings to flow through you. Don't let your inner critic block the process. Let your inner child lead the way instead. In our art docenting, we've met so many adults and also just older children in elementary school who by 4th or 5th grade have already received the message that they are terrible at art and they can't do it. And that is so sad because the arts, singing, dancing, visual arts, they're so important for all of us. And it's our birthright. It's everybody's human right to express themselves creatively. So you don't have to be, a professional artist to do art. So
right.
I could expound on that for hours.
But it's time for art. Let's not just talk about it. Let's do some art. Let's do some art. Okay. So hopefully you all received an instruction PDF so that it had the materials that you'd need. And if you have those handy, that'd be great. Let's get ready for art. So things you'll need for this: watercolor palette. It doesn't have to be a fancy one. It can be a child's watercolor palette. You need some brushes, maybe a thicker brush and a fine brush.
Or just the one that came in the box is fine.
The one that came in the box, exactly. Nothing fancy. Watercolor paper, or if you don't have watercolor paper, you can use a thicker cardstock. It helps a little bit if the paper's thicker when you're putting so much water on it. You need a box of crayons, and specifically a white crayon. Because we'll be using that, and some water. And I know that when I'm illustrating, I have to put on certain music because it really inspires me. It gets my creative juices flowing, and it helps me focus on my art. So if you have something that you like to listen to musically, just put that on.
And, Courtney, I'm just seeing some people in the chat who didn't know that they needed the material. So, wing it. Maybe you have a couple crayons at home, or you can just use a pen or pencil. You may not get the full effect, but we want you to do the project with whatever materials you have at hand. So It could be on the back of your notepad with a pencil, and you're good. Okay.
Right.
So don't let lack of watercolors keep you from doing it.
Exactly. Okay.
And come on, daycare and preschool teachers. I guess I'm imagining there are some crayons in your house. Raise your hand if you happen to have a box of crayons at home. I know I do.
I have too many crayons, and I don't even have a preschooler. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a moment to do that, to find something.
And we will put the instructions will be in the package. So if you want to do this more leisurely, you're going to have time, a few minutes right now. And then during the break, once we set up the art, will be about 15 minutes. That gives you time to run to the bathroom and also do a little bit of art, hopefully. Right. I think you've been invited to share your art on the Voices for Children Facebook page at the end of the event. So we look forward to seeing it, since there's no way to see it right now.
Right.
On this online. Right.
So I'm just going to speak a little bit about materials in general, not just for this, but you guys will know. I mean, if you're having little ones do this, maybe it's not watercolor paints, maybe it's foam paints, or you can use thicker crayons for little ones' hands. Or you can use pastels. You don't have to have crayons. You have kids that can handle the pastels. So you'll know what's most appropriate for the children of your age group that you're working with. This is just a general, but you make adjustments depending on the children that you're working with. So I'm just going to go through the instructions really quickly. It's very simple, but it is powerful because it brings a lot of stuff up, and you can focus in on this. So what you're going to do, you're going to draw on one side of the paper, you're going to draw yourself, and on the other side of the paper, you can draw the person that you're missing. Sometimes you can fold it folded paper for the kids because they have a kind of a delineation of this side and that side. You don't have to, but just put them on opposite sides of the paper. And then you can draw something that connects you, whether it's a tree. In this case, I'm going back to the story that my mother told me about sending hugs and kisses to the moon, and she'd send them back. So I put a moon up there with some stars. I sometimes also, I find that when I'm doing this, I put something in between us that's keeping us apart, like mountains or distance. This is a kind of like that illustration I did in the book with the world and the child on one side and the mother on the other. So I just kind of recreated that. But yeah, so put or sun, moon, wind, telephone lines. Maybe telephone lines are what's connecting you. Then now take your white crayon, and you're going to use the white crayon to draw like swirling lines or X's and O's or maybe hearts or a message that'll go between you and the person that you're missing. So you're going to do that, and I'm going to say press a little bit hard, maybe go over the X or the O or the line a couple times because you really want that white crayon to be a nice thick application onto your paper. So once you do that, then you're going to take your watercolors. We all know how to use watercolors. You put your brush in the water, you pick the color that you want, and you do a wash over the entire painting. And the wonderful thing is that the crayon, the wax in the crayons resist the water, and then as you go over the white, like magic, the message of connection and love is revealed to you or to the child who's doing it. And we've done this project with lots of kids in schools, and it's so amazing to see the creativity of the children and what they put down, who they're missing. They just use their imagination. We should all just tap into that inner child and use our imagination. And it's just, I'm always blown away by the beauty of their artwork and the beauty and the messages that are coming out of their hearts. It's just really inspiring for me. So I went through the instructions very quickly. You take some time to do this. We're going to move to an intermission now, or a break for, I think, is it 10, 15 minutes?
I think it's 15 to 20. I'm not sure of the timing.
It was supposed to be 10, but we can make it 15.
I'm not sure what our timing is right now.
Okay.
We're doing well? Are we?
Yeah, I think we're back on schedule, actually.
Okay.
Because the original schedule, we were supposed to be at 11:20 when we took the break, and it is now 11:18. So,
wow.
I know.
We actually stayed within our time. That's a miracle in itself.
Courtney and I are keeping ourselves in check and not.
We're trying not to
off into.
Yes.
Anecdotes, lots of anecdotes. So, and when we come back from this, then we're going to go into more about different types of social emotional art and specifically the Rhino book. So enjoy your art, everybody. Feel those feelings. Really, I know you're. Nobody can watch you right now, so you have some time to do art. Although maybe some of you have children and
you're critiquing.
Tune them out and enjoy the art. And we will be back in 10 or 15 minutes. And I think they might show some slides from Voices and ChildCareGroup.
And so I need to stop sharing here.
Okay. So
is that what I was supposed to do?
Susan Smiley, I think they had a slideshow from Voices that they wanted to.
I'm calling it up.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
See you in 10.
Y'all can take your break. Let's come back at 11:40. That'll get us back on track.
Okay, cool. cat's been here for me.
I filled this for you in case you want more water.
Oh, I only used 2 minutes of I hear somebody.
Courtney, you can go ahead and share your slides again.
Okay. Where do I see? Where do I share those? Oh, here we go. Sorry. Get back into this.
That's me, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Nope, it's back up.
They can't. Can anybody hear us? No.
Yes.
Oh.
We're live.
Oh, okay.
We're live. Coming back, everybody. Right on schedule. I'll have to.
You can go ahead and get started again if you want to.
Okay. Is everybody back? If you can hear us, run back to your computer. We're going to start now. I know it's hard to take people away from their art. All right. So we're going to now talk a little bit about feedback when children are showing you their art, or really when anyone's showing you their art. And the heading for this is when it's time to share, handle with care. So I see, I wonder, these are some useful phrases to keep in mind when you're looking at children's art. You want to use validating and non-judgmental language. So you're really looking for literally what you see on the page. Don't make any assumptions. There's nothing worse, as you might know from personal experience, from having just drawn what you think is a beautiful horse, and then someone says and comes over and says, "Oh, nice dog." So don't make assumptions about what is in the children's art. Be very specific about what you literally see. I see a lot of colors in this corner. I see this, this thick blue line. I wonder if you can tell me more about that. And then, as we all know, children will launch into a very elaborate story sometimes about what their art means to them. So you don't want to put any assumptions on it. And you can bring in more about feeling, social, emotional. I see this character off in the corner. I wonder how they are feeling. You don't want to assume that what they've drawn is something sad or something angry. It might not be. It might be, oh, this was me at the baseball game yesterday. So just stay neutral and observe what is literally there. Second, you avoid any judgmental language, even if it seems positive. This is counterintuitive. We think that praising kids and saying that's pretty, I like it, that's a good thing. But in fact, they've done a lot of research that shows that when you are telling kids, oh, good job, that's pretty, I like it, it actually starts building up some anxiety in children. They start looking for the teacher's praise. Instead of the art being just a reflection of their feelings and what they want to do, it starts to become something that they're doing to win connection or praise from the teacher. And it also can be troubling to the children sitting near them. If you comment on one child's art and say that's pretty, then the child sitting next to them might feel bad that you haven't commented on their art. So again, keep it with just those I see, I wonder questions. All right, next slide. All right, you can encourage don't focus on the art, but you can encourage the positive behaviors that you want to see, especially those social, emotional learning objectives that we all have, like planning, problem solving. So I noticed that you solved that problem all by yourself. So that's encouraging independence. I wonder what you're going to do next. So don't tell them what to do next. I wonder what you're going to do next. And replace buts with ands. A but, just when you use the word but, you're just negating the first half of the sentence. I like your hair, but you all know how that feels. So if a student says, I hate this, or I'm really unhappy with this, you could just say, and how would you like it to be different? I wonder if you would like to try that. Just encourage them to solve their own problems and make meaning for themselves. I wonder how you could make this more meaningful to you. All right, so those are just some good guidelines on how to, and these are quotes from Ping Ho and Erica Curtis. Ping is the founder of UCLA Arts and Healing. They do a wonderful social emotional arts facilitator training, which I did in 2018. And Erica Curtis is an art therapist who taught the section on visual arts. And the two of them have written a really wonderful book called The Innovative Parent: Raising Connected, Happy, Successful Kids Through Art. So there'll be a link to that also in our resource packet. And
right. So right now we're going to kind of dive back into the whole story of the rhino and how we created that with LeVar Burton. And LeVar Burton, most of you probably know who he is. He's the actor, writer, he's a director, educator, he's an advocate for literacy and books. He's done, many movies and many shows, and he was on Reading Rainbow for nearly 30 years as the host. And he was also the speaker at the Voices for Children Congress last year. So you got to hear him, and some of you might have met him. He's just a wonderful human being. And it was really kismet that he saw our book, that we got the book to him, and he saw it right at that point where he was yearning to write a book to help kids dealing with trauma. He was really affected by 9/11, and that had been kind of in the back of his mind for a while. And he thought it was just about time to write it. So we came together, collaborated, and from the get-go, the intention was to create a book that would help heal children that are going through trauma. We intended it to be a mini bibliotherapy session in a book. And as I mentioned before, because he had been on Reading Rainbow, we really modeled how we put the book together, the flow of the book, the outer story, the inner story. Papa Mouse is LeVar, and the issue is his little daughter Mika is afraid of a storm, so he finds the right book for her. And through the journey that the rhino will go on, he becomes a resilient rhino at the end. And it's really fascinating because LeVar is such a wonderful, interesting person. But the book itself has gone on an amazing journey. On the day it was released, he went on to Good Morning America, and they talked about it on Good Morning America, and it was really wonderful to see him there. It's also been read at a Joining Forces event with the Bidens at the Biden's house and some military families. Former First Lady Michelle Obama and LeVar read it at to a bunch of students on a military base in Oklahoma. But the craziest thing that Susan and I could never have imagined was that in 2015, it was loaded onto a rocket and shot up to the International Space Station. It was launched up there as part of a STEAM program called Storytime from Space, where they sent up 6 picture books and experiments. And what happens is when the books get up there, they're read by astronauts. So our book was read by astronaut Kate Rubins. And so to this day, when Susan and I are having a bad day or we're feeling low or whatever, we just say, or I'm stuck in traffic, not anymore lately, but normally in LA, you're stuck in traffic. You just say, I got a book at space. So
yeah, and our motto became shoot for the moon, you might land on the space station.
Exactly.
So whenever anything feels really hard, it's like shoot for the moon, you might land on the space station.
So those are some
crazy.
The journey of the book is just I don't know. It's just out of this world.
We believe in rhino.
Yeah, we believe in rhino. Okay.
All right. So when we were brought on and we're collaborating in the book, the first thing we did was a lot of research on childhood trauma. And I watched a TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, I recommend looking it up, by Nadine Burke-Harris, about adverse childhood experiences. Raise your hand if you've heard about ACEs. Basically, they have discovered that childhood trauma has a physiological impact. It's not just an emotional impact on children, but actually affects brain development and health, and it can affect them for a long time. And so that was impactful. We also talked to Linda Goldman. We consulted several children's grief and trauma experts and therapists when we were writing the book to make sure we were hitting that making sure we were like really incorporating useful coping strategies and talking about trauma in a way that was accessible and engaging for children. It's a heavy topic, and we wanted to make it something child friendly so they could really understand it at their level, and gain something from the book, and that it would help the whole family.
Right.
So here's a quote. I'm going to read it so everybody can hear it in the chat. The effects of childhood trauma can last a lifetime. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood. ACEs can include violence, abuse, and growing up in a family with mental health or substance use problems. Poverty also is can be a childhood trauma factor. Toxic stress from ACEs can change brain development and affect how the body responds to stress. ACEs are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance misuse in adulthood. So ACEs, so the goal is to try to prevent ACEs in childhood as much as possible. And where it's not possible, to give children coping strategies that help them develop resilience, because everybody is going to be faced with some types of trauma in their life. And so the more resilient we are, the more we can get through those traumas and come out the other side even stronger. So you guys are really in a critical area where you're helping children build these resilient skills that will help them combat childhood or adverse experiences for the rest of their life.
So social emotional arts really help you do this. This is a way that you can help kids heal from the trauma and build the resilience so that they can get through things, get through and deal with their emotions. So healing through the arts, this is evidence-based practices. So there's things like drumming and music where the kids can make sounds and they can release their emotions through, hitting the drums, making music. They can do movement and dance. It's so just wonderful to be able to move your body. It allows them to get things out that maybe they can't express with their words. Mindfulness meditation, they're implementing a lot of mindfulness programs here in LAUSD for in schools that are having behavioral issues, and it's really helped lower the incidents that they're having. So meditation, just being able to sit and channel that into a calm way. Poetry and creative writing, as Susan says, poetry, she's used that her whole life to help her move through emotions and come out the other end with, just kind of a sense of calm. Visual arts, yes, we just did that watercolor. I've used visual arts. It's a great way for children, even small children, like A Window Between Worlds uses it with smaller children who can't use their words, so they use their art. And drama and therapy, you can act out in drama. You can act out like scenes, maybe role play, so that the child can take on. You can learn some really helpful. I'm not sure what I'm saying, but sometimes acting out a role helps you move through your feelings. So. We're just going to continue on.
So here are a few other ways that making art helps reduce trauma. Making art reduces stress. So trauma causes a lot of the stress hormone cortisol to be formed. And I just love this quote. Participants provided saliva samples to assess cortisol, stress hormone levels, before and after 45 minutes of art making. Participants also provided written responses about the experience at the end of the session. Results indicate that art making resulted in statistically significant lowering of cortisol levels. That's from the Journal of the American Art Therapy Association. So that is like a study that shows you that there is an immediate physical response to sitting down and doing art for 45 minutes. So when you're feeling really stressed at home, not just for the kids, but really take that window of time for you. It is good for your body. It will make you more productive. It will alleviate the stress. Don't feel like you have to, not prioritize health. This is a way to really feel better in these stressful times and throughout your life.
Art heals trauma. We've been talking about this. Again, if a child is nonverbal, it's a really wonderful way for them to be able to express themselves. This is a quote from Kathy Salser, who's the founder of A Window Between Worlds, which I talked about earlier, the organization that helps women and children in domestic violence situations use art to heal. Art is a catalyst to release trauma, build resistance, and ignite build resilience. Sorry. I have my other glasses on, so it's build resilience. Thank you, Susan. And ignite social change. When individuals create art in a safe community, they can be heard and respected, replacing violence and shame with safety and hope. So, again, I mean, how true is that? It's just a safe space for you to express yourself.
Nonverbal communication. This is really critical. Many of you are working with young children, and their communication, their ability to verbalize their feelings may be not as broad as a grown-up's, but the arts offer a nonverbal means of communication when speech is limited by stress, trauma, language, ability, or cultural practices. Under stress and trauma, the brain is busy protecting us from real or imagined threat, which interferes with our ability to talk. Fortunately, we still have visual, auditory, and movement pathways available to us. I do something called ecstatic dance, which is like freestyle dancing, at least once or twice a week. Because sometimes when my head is spinning with all these thoughts and emotions, I can't even sit down to journal. I need to move. So that's another, the expressive arts are not just visual arts. It's any kind of means of self-expression. So dance, meditation, movement, these are things you can do without talking. Because if you get caught up in your head, like it's hard to get it out. But sometimes just releasing it through your body or through your paintbrush helps you calm down, and then you might be able to access your communication skills and more effectively after you've released that stress.
Right. And speaking of stress, as Susan was saying, it reduces stress. I mean, it's just you're not focused on that storm in your head. So active engagement in the arts involves a large part of the brain which crowds out stress and enables learning. Rigorous studies of the arts delivered in the therapeutic context show consistent biological evidence of stress reduction. This restores brain's function necessary for learning. When they say that you're so caught up in your storm, or you're so caught up in the trauma that you're in and your anger, that you can't think straight. That I can't think straight. I'm so upset I can't think straight. We see more and more examples of that every day because we're all under stress. And so that's, another reason to sit down, do some art, or stand up and dance, or hit a drum, do something that will release it in a more positive way.
Yep, and enhance positive emotions, carrying on that. Moreover, the arts are uniquely capable of enhancing positive emotions, not just reducing negative ones. We build agency and resilience in the discovery of something we can do to feel better. Just by doing something that makes you feel better, you become more resilient, because your brain is like, oh, when I feel this stressed out, now I have something that I can rely upon to make me feel better. It's like, I'm in a hole, and now I have a tool to climb out of the hole, and that is art or dance or music. Exactly. So learning these tools as children, and then, you really need to reinforce that through the years for yourself. You might need to remember that now. It's so important. I'm going to just keep saying it. It's just really important.
How many times can we say it?
I could say it a lot of times.
I know. All right. Next, and build social connections. So when you're doing art with a group, I've been on projects where you build a bond with them, because you're vulnerable when you're doing art. So I'll just read this quote. And finally, the arts are uniquely powerful at building social connection. According to trauma expert Bessel van der Kolk, children will go to almost any length to feel seen and connected. So yeah, so when you're doing art with a group of people or you're doing art, you're sharing yourself with the people around you. And vulnerability, strengthens bonds because then you learn to trust. And especially when you have a wonderful caregiver or a teacher or a social worker, that's somebody who's implementing all of the tools that we've talked about responding to their art in a way that makes them think about it and not feel shame about it. So it's just a great, shared creative experiences offers an organic way to truly be seen, heard, and connected. That is very true.
I will say that's kind of my favorite part of doing school visits is when we get to sit and do, we do a lot of festivals too, and just sitting and doing art with the kids is my favorite thing.
Yeah, I know. I love Nico. All right, so we're going to do a little exercise here.
This is a new fun little somatics or movement activity that we've just started incorporating with the Rhino book. And that's, kids love to pretend. And it also will point out, we'll tell you later about it, but an important theme in the book. So right now at home, in whatever way you feel empowered to do so, I want you to use your bodies and pretend to be a mouse, whatever you feel like a mouse is. Whether you're going to scurry around, you could use your hand to be the mouse. You could do like a little puppet show with your hand and be the mouse. And then I want you to embody the rhino. Be a big rhino, big strong rhino, maybe stomping around in your meadow, snorting, like pawing at the ground, looking for delicious plants to eat. And then go back to be the little mouse. And now be the big rhino. And now be a little mouse.
And maybe the mouse is the strong one and be the scared little rhino. You can role play like that. Exactly.
All right. So
we're gonna.
This one's really hard to do without being able to see everybody. It would be so fun to see all the mice and the rhinos right now. But we're picturing it. We have good imaginations, Courtney and I. So we see you.
All right. So
now it is time for another story.
We're gonna put your inner child back in the driver's seat here. You're gonna have a little picture book story.
Yep.
Okay. The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm. So this is the page where, even though we're putting the copyright and the dedications on here, I use this to show the impending storm that's coming. It's rolling in. Animals are scared. So we're going to go into that little door there in the house. And here we go. In the middle of the morning, Mika Mouse trembled under her blanket. A storm boomed outside her window. Rain crashed against the glass. Wind rattled the shutters. More than anything else, Mika was afraid of storms. A year before, a powerful hurricane had destroyed her home. "I'm scared, Papa," she said. "We are safe, Mika. This storm will pass soon," said Papa. "Would you like me to read you a story? I know just the one to help you feel better." Mika loved books, and Papa's gentle voice soothed in a way that made her forget all about the thunder. Papa opened the book and began.
Long, long ago, before there were words, animals roamed in bountiful herds. Little Rhinoceros lived happy and free, exploring mountains and meadows, rivers and trees. His world was delightful and chock full of magic, until out of the blue, the magic turned tragic. A storm swept through the valley, turning bright sky to black. A flash flood came raging, no time to react. Lost in the thundering, no time for wondering, chaos and lightning, fury so frightening, earth quaking, him shaking, water rumbling, him tumbling, raggedy, jaggedy, senseless calamity. The storm crashed through his world and tore it apart and took away everything dear to his heart. Rhino was stunned by the terrible scene, death and destruction all through the ravine. Enraged by the pain of such a great loss, Rhino acted without a thought to the cost. Rhino looked at his world, all tattered and torn, stood alone on a ledge, and swallowed the storm. Inside his belly, he felt the storm growing. Inside his head, he heard howling and blowing. Like a tornado, he spun as the storm raged inside, growing bigger and bigger and wider than wide. When he finally stopped, when he regained control, he was at the very bottom of a very deep hole. What to do? Rhino worried as rain dripped down his face. I'm lost and I'm lonely and in such a dark place. At just the right moment to comfort and guide him, a spider dropped down and dangled beside him. The world up above is shattered and gray, but it's where you belong, so you must find a way to let that storm out and move through your sorrow. You'll find many helpers on your road to tomorrow. Oh, but that hole was dreadfully deep, and the walls all around him were slippery steep. Rhino tried to climb out, but was losing all hope when Kangaroo heard him and threw down a rope. The rhino was heavy from the weight of the storm. They towed him right up, got him safe, dry, and warm. We're strong and steady and always ready. When danger strikes, we hop to it. Fire or flood, snow or mud, when help is needed, we'll pull you through it. Watching those heroes do what they did best gave Rhino the strength to set off on his quest. That storm he was clutching made him buzzy and blurry. It kept his brain foggy and filled him with worry. Where do I go? What do I do? How will I ever make it through? All right, can we all be bees? Can everybody buzz at home? Bzz, bzz, bzz. Kids like that part. After every dark night, there comes a new day. Be kind, do your best, and you'll find your way. Up comes the sun. There are steps to complete. There isn't a map. Just follow your feet. Rhino followed his feet to a wallowing spot where he plopped on a rock and had a deep thought. I'm tired of caging the wind and the rain, exhausted from holding this anger and pain. We're all on this earth to learn and to grow, a wise old tortoise chimed in from below. Allowing yourself to start feeling your feelings is the very first step on the journey toward healing. It doesn't much matter if you're fast or you're slow. If you want to move forward, just trust and let go. And now I'm going to encourage you all to shake your bodies and shimmy them and stomp your feet on the floor to help Rhino let go of the storm. Rhino shook and shimmied and stomped in the muck, and just as he hoped, that storm came unstuck. At first, one little raindrop leaked out of his eye. Then Rhino let go and had a good cry. His tears formed a river that flowed to the sea, where a pod of whales swam happy and free. I do feel better, Rhino thought as he drifted. Then up swam a whale, and Rhino was lifted. If you ever feel blue, the whale said with a spout, remember to breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. And we're going to take a moment here to do a few whale breaths. So everybody, and in again, and out, and in. One more. Good. Sing your own song and take it deep, deep, deep. Then rise above with a joyful leap. As he floated home on a gentle wave, Rhino felt calm and strong and brave. His vision was clear like the sky above, and he looked at his world through eyes filled with love. He thanked the kind spider and the brave kangaroo and all of the others who'd helped him through. He was glad to know that if he ever lost hope, they'd lend him a hand or throw him a rope. He had journeyed his journey a very long way to find the light in a world turned gray. He'd swallowed a storm with no thought to the cost. He'd felt all alone. He'd been tumbled and tossed. Life would bring changes, beginnings and ends, but he had faith in himself and faith in his friends. As they curled up together, he felt loved and protected, and he dreamed of a world that was safe and connected. He understood now it was love that mattered. Love could never be lost. Love could never be shattered.
Papa closed the book and gave Mika a hug. I know it was scary when we lost our home last winter, said Papa. Bad things happen sometimes, and we can't always control that. But we had lots of helpers, said Mika, just like Rhino did. That's right, little one, Papa said in his gentle way. You're never really alone when bad things happen. There are family and friends, even people we don't know, who are always there to help us through tough times. Together, we can weather any storm. And then after the storm, beautiful rainbow.
A rainbow.
I want to live in that little house.
You do. In your imagination, you do, Courtney.
I did. I lived in it for 6 months.
All right. And so then the very last page of the book, we added these questions to facilitate a dialogue with children. So like we said, we almost wanted to create we did want to create a bibliotherapy session in one book. So there are all these wonderful questions that help kids process the things that they read in the story and relate it back to their own lives. Like, who are the helpers in their lives? Have you ever felt like Rhino? So a lot of those open-ended social emotional type questions that we were talking about earlier are actually embedded in the book. And one of the questions is about how Mika Mouse and Rhino had activities that made them feel better. Like Mika heard a story, Rhino connected with his friends. And so we want to know what activities help you feel better. Right. So this is something that we asked children, and now we're asking you. So back to being grown-ups.
Yes.
You can enter things in the chat. If you want to go ahead and put some things in the chat, here's another. And I just have to point out that this cat, Noir, is the narrator of our book, The Artist Who Loved Cats. And in French, the word for cat is chat. So we
it's a play on words in various languages.
We can't resist puns and wordplay, whatever we have. And Courtney, I love just seeing her illustrations. So invitation to chat.
And don't forget
a few activities that help you feel better when you're going through rough times. Please put them here in the chat. So that's you as yourself, not children in your classroom, but you personally.
And don't forget, we're going to be picking 5 people to get to win a autographed copy of the Rhino book that we'll send out to 5 people. So,
and I will sign for you.
Yes,
and we might even throw in a bilingual Besos de Sol Sun Kisses book too.
Yeah.
So
okay. So
I see. I don't know if you can see the court chat.
I can't see any.
This is a very emotionally healthy audience here, and they are cross-stitching, they're reading, they're going on long walks, they're doing music,
awesome,
yoga. Courtney loves yoga too. Electronic puzzles. I just started doing some of those. Cooking,
that's
baking,
new.
Praying, meditation, coloring.
I'm so glad you're reading those to me because I can't see them.
Like it's just like it's coming in so fast. Talking to friends, yes, Courtney and I.
Amazing.
Music, biking. Spending time with their daughter, crafting, shopping. Oh yeah, talk drawing.
I've been doing too much of that.
LeVar has a wonderful podcast. So I can't say
Fantastic.
them all. But exercise. Just a good job, everybody. And
you're taking care of yourself. Awesome.
I suggest you look at the chat and see what jumps out at you.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So we're going to move forward now. Thank you all. It's still there's still just so many.
I know. I'm looking forward to looking at them afterwards. All right. So you probably noticed some of the coping strategies that we embedded in the book. So I'll just go over them really quickly. Papa Mouse reading to Mika, the bibliotherapy that was happening there. Reaching out for help and finding helpers, knowing that when you need help, you can ask for it. Sometimes we don't remember that we can ask for help. Identifying your feelings. If you're feeling, poor little Rhino at the bottom of that hole, he's feeling depressed. So it's important to be able to identify how you're feeling. Creative expression, singing your own song. That circle that he comes back into, the fire circle community scene where they've got a bongo bear and the kangaroos playing. It's wonderful. They're expressing themselves with music and healing. Movement therapy, the stomping and shaking it out that Rhino does in the mud until he can cry, and then the breathing and mindfulness technique that the whale helps him do. And so all of those are things that we purposely put in the book so that kids can get those messages. Because, you know, if you can give a child techniques to move through their feelings, you're just making a more resilient adult later on in life. So.
All right. And so then some other things that are embedded in the book. The idea of using a storm for the trauma that Rhino faces was very deliberate. The storm can stand in for pretty much any trauma, whether it's bullying, you know, a parent been deployed, or whatever, like they've lost a family member, whatever the trauma is, the storm can represent that. And by using a storm, we also have this wonderful opportunity to find words that are related to both weather and feelings, to give kids a vocabulary for talking about how the feelings are landing in their body. So for instance, that storm he was clutching made him buzzy and blurry. It kept his brain foggy and filled him with worry. Obviously, your brain doesn't fill up with actual fog, but it is a feeling very like fog, and kids could connect to that if they've ever seen fog or a cloud. It can give them a way to express what they're feeling. And at first, one little raindrop leaked out of his eye. Then Rhino let go and had a good cry. So this is a way. That's the place where kids could connect the idea very easily that the storm represents their feelings. Like raindrops, what's really leaking out? What really comes out of your eyes? Tears. Oh, the rain is like tears, right? So it just gives them this moment to connect to the idea of using the weather vocabulary to express how they're feeling. All right, and then, so this is a slide that actually is from one of our presentations that we give to kids, but I thought it would be appropriate here to just tell you what would, kind of like the nuances of the decisions on every page that we're making as a collaborative team. And this idea that everybody has their own way of feeling about a situation. What makes one person sad could make another person glad or mad. So, you know, in this line, sing your own song, we actually looked at all these words. Sing a glad song, sing a sad song, sing a mad song, because maybe Rhino would still be mad that that terrible storm had happened to him, or maybe he'd be glad that it was over with, or maybe he'd be sad still because not everybody heals at the same pace. So we very deliberately made the line, sing your own song. And we have to remember when we're dealing with children or anyone who's going through trauma that their feelings are their own. There is no expected path or steps. It's like, that's the other thing. Rhino has to find his own path, his own steps. The steps of grief are different for everybody in how they play out. So just being really attuned to children, expressing to you, like, don't assume how they're feeling in any moment. Just be attuned to what they're expressing through their words, their art, their body language.
Right.
Okay.
So while LeVar and Susan were finding these wonderful weather feeling words, I was illustrating and trying to figure out how visually I could be telling the story, the transition of Rhino from happy Rhino in his meadow with his friend to Rhino after the storm hits. So when he's happy, the colors are bold. His body language is very positive. His ears are up. You can tell he's got a relaxed expression. His bird friends on his head. They're having a great time just eating the daisies. But once the storm hits and he spirals into that tornado and ends up at the hole, I desaturated all of the colors. And I created his Rhino with body language that feels very depressed. You know, kind of when we're depressed or we're feeling bad, the world does feel desaturated, for me anyway. It feels gray. So it was a nice opportunity, and also just illustrating this book in general was a nice opportunity and a challenge for me as an illustrator to illustrate in two different styles, the outer book and the inner book, and to explore how you can visually tell this. Like, even if there weren't words, I mean, the words make it wonderful, but you would be able to see that he's gone through something, you know? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then how we picked the characters. I mean, that was deliberate as well. We knew that we wanted a little mouse, and Mika and Papa Mouse, and the little scared, frail, small mouse. So we wanted to juxtapose that with a big, fierce rhino, because rhinos are tough. They've got thick skin. They're dangerous. You know, you don't expect them to be vulnerable, but yet rhino is. So we wanted to show that you could be a little vulnerable person, a little scared mouse, or a big giant rhino, and we're all kind of going through the same emotional spectrum. We're all dealing with, fears and anxieties and happiness and sadness, and then we don't talk about this the little bird, the cattle egret, that is that follows rhinos around in real life. They're a symbiotic relationship where the cattle egret will pick the bugs off the rhino, the ticks and all that fun stuff. And then it's also, because rhinos have terrible eyesight, they act as an alert if there's some danger. But the little bird in the story never has any words, and you can see when the tornado hits and Rhino is twirling and swirling about, he throws off his friend. And it's very much like when somebody is going through a storm and going through an emotional period, they sometimes are not aware of the harm that they're creating to the people around them. They're not, they're so into their own head and their storm. So that the bird flies off, and the bird doesn't abandon him. The bird follows him through the story, waiting for that point when Rhino has dealt with his feelings and is in a safer spot for him to return. And so he returns during the wail, and then they go into the community circle together. So it's really neat. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, specifically, to that, imagine a parent who comes back from war and has PTSD, or a parent really struggling to cope with the pandemic right now, and they are in their own storms, and so the small children are kind of like the bird that, their world is rocked because the parent has been rocked by something, and so it would be a useful activity to have children draw from the perspective of the bird. So when you get a chance, you'll be able to download this book for free on our website. We're going to give you all a link, the ebook. And look, Courtenay has done a really wonderful job of hiding the bird in all the different pictures, because the bird is just there, but waiting for the rhino to be safe for them. Exactly. So you may have kids in your schools who don't feel safe around one of their parents, and that's a hard place to be.
Yeah, it is a hard place right now because we're all stuck at home, so there's no
and again, just a reminder, have someone in your corner who is a child psychologist or social worker or therapist. Your school probably has someone that you can talk to. So if something comes up that you feel needs more support than you're able to give in the classroom, don't be afraid. Don't be ask for help.
For help,
just like Rhino learns to ask for help.
And then the last part, the supporting helpers. These are representative of the people, of the people in real life, the first responders, the nurses, the therapists, the helpers that help Rhino along his journey are also the helpers that help us along on our journey through whatever storms we're having inside of us. So they move the story along. They give him advice. They encourage him to keep moving forward, to not give up. And they're there to lend a hand. So as Mr. Rogers says, look for the helpers, because they're all around. And we can see them so clearly now during this pandemic. The nurses, the doctors, the janitors who are working at the hospitals cleaning up, the teachers who are trying to figure out how to teach the children, it's just an eye-opening moment in time where we see the true value of the people around us, the helpers around us.
Courtenay actually made pulled out her sewing machine and made masks and gave me a couple masks at the beginning of this. So like, it was amazing to see.
A very small part.
No, but I mean, it's like but that was like a lot of people were have been stepping up in really amazing ways in a very tough time. So if you can focus your own attention and also focus the children's attention on the helpers, that's a really positive resilience strategy to have your whole life. Like, instead of being in a place of fear, let's be in a place of gratitude for all the amazing support that's out there.
Right. That feeling of hope is super important.
And being a helper feels really good too.
It does.
So like if you can reflect on like, wow, you're really making a difference. You're supporting these children. You're helping people in your community. You're, focus in on that and feel really empowered and because you're amazing.
Yeah, you are amazing. So we've got some other activity ideas to do with this book.
It's endless, of course. You're all creative teachers, and I'm sure you'll come up with a million more ideas than this, but you can make maracas. We saw some really cute, we'll put some links in the guidebook, using old toilet paper rolls to make super cute maracas that are good for little hands. And Kinder Music, when this book came out, Kinder Music actually did an activity to go with it where the kids embody the storm. They do a little musical number where they're shaking things to be the storm, and then they have to be quiet because the storm is over. And so that's fun. Acting out the book, there are lots of great parts that kids can play in the book, or you could do puppets or make masks, and it's a good place to show them body language. Like, as Courtenay was saying with the illustrations, you can like show them like, oh, this looks really sad when you're hunched down and your face is sad. So a really good time to talk about feelings. The whale breathing, we did a mini session, but there are wonderful soundtracks available out there of actual humpback whales singing, which I would think, we know they capture the imagination of kids, and it would be fun to combine that with some mindfulness. And then drawing the weather you feel on the inside, or using it as a check-in in the circle. Maybe you're already doing some like a felt board or something where the kids are identifying it's sunny, it's rainy, and have them tune into like how they're feeling inside. Are they feeling like really like their stomach is swirly and there's a storm in there? Or are they feeling like sunshine is in their head?
Right. So this is a
I see someone in the chat put tornado bottles that the children can play with, and that would be a great connection with this too.
Yeah. So on that note, invitation to chat. Put some of these expressive art activities that you like to do with your students into the chat. And do you have an idea that you think would be great to do with the books that we just mentioned, with Rhino books or with Sun Kisses? Just put them here, because we're always, we love seeing everybody's ideas. It's just great. You guys are super creative.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and again, opportunity to win a Rhino book.
Oh, and also there are some activities with directions you can download free on our website, innerflowerchild.com.
Innerflowerchild books. Oh yeah,
it's innerflowerchild.com. And one of them is this really fun rain stick activity, just like the watercolor we developed with A Window Between Worlds to be used in shelters, etc. We did one that is to go with this book, that is a rain stick where the kids use a cardboard tube, and the directions are online, but it's a great, like when kids are feeling that storm outside them, they can shake it and think about it. It just gives them a reflecting tool.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Play-Doh, rain bottles, table sand, using a parachute.
Those are all great.
And someone mentioned that
you can see in this slide. Yep. You can see in this slide the rain stick. We made that with A Window Between Worlds.
Oh, there it is at the bottom with all the leaves around it.
Right.
So that's a fun one. And that's actually a fun one to do as a family. The family can create a rain stick together and use it as a talking stick for like when they're having a circle to share their feelings.
So stay connected with us. And
wow, Courtenay, there are just tons of things in the chat right now. Fidget spinners, finger painting, water play with animals, balloon blowing, different music. So keep it up. There's some great ideas in there, and we're going to try to compile those for you.
Right. So this is the way of staying connected. If you have some ideas and you have questions for us, please feel free to reach out to us. Here's our email address, xoxo@sunkissesmoonhugs.com. And then we will be sharing a lot in a follow-up email. All the resource packets will be emailed out next week at some point.
And the other thing, we do sell the books. The books are available in lots of, the Sun Kiss is available in lots of places. The Rhino book is a little harder to get. There's a free download on our page. There's also a free download at LeVarburton.com of the Rhino book until it comes back out in print, hopefully this fall. And we're going to be sending you a coupon for 15% off since you attended this workshop that you can use if you want to buy any books on our site. So that will be in the resource packet too.
Yeah. So again, we can't thank you enough for being the wonderful helpers in children's lives that you are, whether you're a teacher, a social worker, a psychologist, a child care provider, whether you're running a program like Voices for Children of San Antonio, where you're helping children with all of various needs and everything that's even more exacerbated by the pandemic and by the things that were going on right now in the world. So thank you for being helpers and for joining us today. I wish we could have actually seen you all, but and as soon as I get to look at the chat, I'll see some of the things that you guys are saying.
And the next together. So it's like, we love to say this, together we can weather any storm. So Courtenay and I have written books. That's our way of contributing. You guys are in the front lines, and we really admire and thank you for that. And it takes everybody coming together with their piece of the puzzle to get through the storms, like the big storm that we're facing today. And I mean, I know Texas has had their issues with hurricanes, and like there's always going to be trauma and tough times that happen to individuals and to communities. And so we need to be like this group of all these different animals at the fire circle coming together to support each other.
Penguins and kangaroos.
That's right. Alligators and zebras side by side. In our world, that's how it is. And I want to say thanks again to the host agencies, ChildCareGroup and Voices for Children of San Antonio, and also to Charlotte Ann and Susan Smiley at Nowcast San Antonio, and to the representatives from Texas government who were kind enough to be here today. It's exciting to hear how they're advocating for children and for teachers at the state level, at the government level. So thank you. It takes all of us, and we appreciate you.
And that's the end of the presentation. I think, do we move to the Q&A? I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, I think we're now going to have a Q&A. So if you have a question, you can put it into the Ask a Question box down below. And if your question somebody else has already put in the box, you can upvote it. So then...
Oh, there we are.
Hello. Here we are. I still have my cat ears. Oh, and people have asked to see my cat, who has been calmly sleeping next to me. I just woke her up from her cat nap. Oh, Courtney, you just went really digi.
I did? Oh, yeah. I think it's because Charlene Ann left.
No, that was me, and I didn't leave. I just minimized myself.
Susie.
Yeah, that's your video that's lagging.
Yeah, Courtney, your video is... You look like a really interesting impressionist painting. There you are.
Oh, see, I look so much better when I'm digitized.
And it's doing it a little bit again. I would try not to move too much, because every time you move, it goes into some...
Oh, okay.
There. Yeah, so this is...
I'm going to have to do yoga after this because I have not moved.
Remember that game, Freeze Tag?
Yeah. I'm just going to move my mouth.
Be a sculpture. Okay.
So we have a lot of questions and
okay, let's get to them.
Okay. There's some comments that I'm just going to read to you. This one has been upvoted a lot, so people want it to be said. Says that was cool to lead a student to read it to another child and both getting healed. So that was from the first half, and people really liked that.
Oh, good. Yeah. On that note, I just want to say, like, one of the most powerful moments for me with the Rhino book was when I shared it with a friend who is a veteran, and he started sobbing and he said, "I am the rhino. I'm the rhino." And so this grown man, and he's huge. He's like a giant. He's like 6'8", tough looking guy, like the rhino. And he was a mess inside because he was carrying this whole storm from his war experiences. So we're
all the rhino.
We're all the rhino, and we're all Mika Mouse, and we're also all capable of resilience and healing.
Exactly.
Yeah, people want to see the cat more.
So, the next question.
She's done. She's done being on camera. She's shy.
The cat doesn't want to be shown. It says, "What about putting?" I think they mean putting out books about bullying. Do y'all have anything planned for bullying?
Not a specific book about bullying, but that was actually when we were discussing it and doing our creative collaborations with LeVar. Bullying can also be a storm. So my way of addressing bullying would be that a bully is someone who has a storm inside of them that they have not found a positive way to release, and they're instead like that picture that Courtenay, one of the illustrations, where the storm is running their show. They're like a tornado, and anybody who gets in their way. So I think you could use the rhino book actually to help kids. And then the kid that is being bullied would probably identify very closely with the bird. Like that bully doesn't even see me, and they're not safe. And so it would be a way to explain to children that
But no, we don't actually specifically
we don't have a specific book about bullying.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one, and I think you already answered this earlier, but you can answer it again. I see most books are in English. Are they also accessible in Spanish?
So far, just Sun Kisses is available in a bilingual Spanish-English edition, and we're hoping to translate Rhino and our other books in the next year or so.
Great. What can we do if a parent throws her daughter's art in the trash in front of her?
Oh, ouch.
Wow.
That is hard. I think I would have the child draw in class where, is this happening in a classroom? I wonder if this is happening at home and the teacher can only communicate with her online.
I'm not sure what to say.
I don't know. I would give the child an opportunity to express how they feel about that in another art form at school, and then prominently pin that art up somewhere in the classroom so that they know that their art is treasured.
Right.
I don't know. That might be a good one to consult an art therapist and just ask them.
Right.
Yeah. So those are a couple ideas.
Okay.
And I'm sending out love to not just the child, but to also the mother, who clearly has her own issues around, like maybe she felt really shamed for her art as a child or something. There's something going on there.
Right.
So trying to have some compassion for the mother and also the child.
Yeah, and people were commenting that they'd seen it happen. So I think this was, and it was upvoted a lot. So I think this is a.
Oh, and somebody in the thread just posted, the parent should read the book, I'm Not Just a Scribble. That's a great book for identifying how important children's art are. Even if we can't understand what's going on, it is deeply meaningful for the child who's creating the art.
Okay. You had mentioned a research article about stress reduction in art, and people are asking for the link for that.
Yes, we have literally a page and a half just of links to everything we referenced in our program today, and we will be emailing that to everybody Monday or Tuesday. They'll get all the links.
So do people need to sign up for your email, or are you going to get the email?
No, just by registering for this event, we have a contact and we'll send it to that email, that whatever you use to register for the event.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Hi, Susan and Courtney. Will there be books sent out to the daycares?
That is a question for Voices for Children and ChildCareGroup. So
maybe somebody from that can get on and answer this. Actually, I think it was asked more than once, and I think
and I wanted to say Miranda and some of the staff at Voices for Children said that they will be looking at all these questions, and any that we aren't able to answer here, they'll put together an answer and get those to you. I'm not sure, via email or in some way, maybe on their website.
Great, thanks. This is just a book recommendation. I would like to recommend about bullying for older kids is Bobby Zombie is a Real Zombie by Aiden Garcia and Chris Garcia.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, Courtney, your screen is frozen now. Or are you just sitting? Or are you sitting so still? Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, I'm sitting very still.
You haven't even moved your mouth.
It's a ventriloquism. I'm taking that up in my spare time.
I'm seeing people say in the comments, some of them are having a hard time seeing, but everybody can hear clearly.
They can hear. Okay.
And I think you just answered this one. Will resource packet be mailed or emailed? You said this can be emailed out.
Yes.
Emailed out, yeah. We'll email it Monday or Tuesday.
How do we respond to children that are looking for validation from peers for their art, especially when the response from a peer is not positive?
That's challenging.
I'm trying to think of examples because in our art testing
process, I think you want to empower the child to use their own voice to stand up for their art, because this is something that they might come across. I have a highly developed inner critic, and I'm sure it came from times when I was little and people said they didn't like this or didn't like that. So if it would have been helpful, I think, as a child, if someone had just used those I see, I wonder questions with me and say, well, I see that you've done this picture and there are like all these lines. Why don't you tell us what your art is about and what it means to you? I wonder what it's what you're telling us through your art, and empower that child to speak and talk about their art from their own hearts. I think that's the best thing you can do always, is to empower a child's own voice.
Right. Exactly.
And when will a hard copy of the Rhino book be available to purchase?
We're hoping that we're going to have something toward the end of the year. We're working on it right now. So we're just...
Yep, it's a new edition with some minor changes. And with COVID, things have slowed down in terms of getting things to the printer. So we had hoped to have it by the end of the summer. However, it's going to be more like probably November, December.
Possibly.
And it will be coming out in hardcover and paperback.
Right,
so that'll make it more accessible for people.
But again, it's free right now. The ebook is free on our site and lavarsburton.com.
And if you go on Amazon, there are still, you can occasionally find used copies. There's occasionally some that come up. It's out of print, but there are some floating around.
Right.
And Miranda from Voices for Children commented that they have limited copies, and you can email her.
Yes, they had some inventory last year when they did the event where LeVar spoke. I think they had some then.
So you can email Miranda if you want to get a copy of it also. And the next question, are any books sent to schools?
We try to get them out to schools as much as possible. I'm not sure if that was a question for Voices or ChildCareGroup or us. We're an independent publishing group, so we would love to donate cases of books to every classroom in America. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that. We do try to make the ebook available. We do make the ebook available for free so that we can get it to as many people as possible. We're here if you have a personal question about your particular situation. Please reach out.
Yes.
How's that? Oh, and for schools, we do on our website offer the books by the case. They're always 10% off if you buy them by the case. And the coupon that we're giving you is 15% off. So you can get the books for 25% off if you buy them a case at a time, if you have that need for a bulk order. Just, we put that up there.
Okay. The next question, how to help a toddler with the emotional drawing?
Well, obviously a toddler's not going to have the skills of a kinder or first grader. I think just allowing them to have, I did this with my daughter when she was little. I'd put up a piece of paper on an easel and I'd just give her paints and I would just let her go to it. And it wasn't about making a picture. It was about just, she would just take her hands into the paint and just really express herself. And sometimes it became like a big muddy mess, and that was fine because that made her feel good. And when she was done, I'd take it off and she could just paint for as long as she wants. So I think it's just allowing them to scribble and just encouraging them to get their hands into the paint or just, go with it. And you obviously aren't going to be critiquing it as a piece of art. You can say, oh, I love the effort you're putting into this. This is wonderful. You're expressing yourself. This is just, not commenting on the art, but commenting on the effort.
And at whatever verbal level they're at, you can use those I see, I wonder questions, because even at an early age, they might have a story in their head about what they're drawing. So just say, oh, I see this blue line, or I see this blue over here. What is that? Can you tell me more about that? I wonder what is happening there. And it's just an opportunity to dialogue, and they're gonna respond to you at whatever developmental level they are at. And yeah, so crayons. In fact, A Winter Between Worlds has this wonderful therapeutic art activity called the aggressive crayon. So when kids or adults are feeling overwhelmed or really angry, they just give them a big sheet of paper and they pick a crayon and they just
scribble.
It's not about making a picture. It's strictly about getting that energy, that angry emotion out until the crayon breaks. Like, you just go for it until the crayon breaks. So, and that is like really completely wonderful therapeutic activity to do. So I think just allowing them this channel of expression at whatever stage they're at is great.
Is positive.
All right. This next question is really, really similar, so I'm not sure that it needs a separate answer, but you might be able to expand a little bit. Any suggested artwork for toddler or 2-year-olds, or how to introduce them to art?
Again, I those just get watercolor. I mean, not watercolor paints, but I used what did I use? It was like a washable
tempera paint.
Yeah, I used tempera paint. Yes. And just I had like a big roll of craft paper, and so that's one. Big crayons. I didn't really do markers when they're that young, because then my daughter tended to want to marker on the wall. But just give them a big space where they can just scribble and make a mess, and it's great. It's just,
I have something to add to that too. Yeah, there are so many wonderful picture book biographies of artists too. So this is another way to introduce kids. Take them to art museums once they open again. But like, there are so many ways to just let children see art and learn about people who that's what they do, so that's a way to incorporate art. And after reading a picture book, like, let's go scribble, and let them be inspired by things that are out there too. Oh, someone posted you can use milk and food colors for painting.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Truly non-toxic.
Yeah.
There's some specific questions about your books. How many books come in a case?
It depends on the book. So if you go to our website, it's all clearly marked.
Can y'all put one of you put the website in the chat?
I think that Miranda, or somebody just did
a
couple times. It's innerflowerchild.com.
Okay, let's see.
Well, if you want.
I did it.
Specifically for cases, if they're hardcover books, there's 30 books in a case. And then the paperback, Bezos is 55 in a case, and the paperback of Sun Kisses is 73 in a case. It's a very weird number.
It has to do with like the size boxes that they have at the printer and how many they can fit into it. So. Yeah.
All right. Those are all of the questions that I see. There are some more comments, so y'all might want to read through these after the session is over. Let me make sure that nobody's added any questions in here.
Someone said whipped cream play with infants. That's right. Oh my gosh, I remember that when they were babies. The tray of the high chair became an art space a lot of times, you know.
That was dinner.
Their
no,
chocolate
it's an art
pudding
piece.
with their strained broccoli.
Somebody said one of those bingo. I don't even know what they're called. Because it just moved up in the chat. But those bingo dot makers, daubers. The kids love that.
Oh, yeah, butcher paper, like putting big sheets of paper down. Chalk. I've seen a lot of really cool chalk art coming out in the pandemic. People writing beautiful messages on their sidewalks.
Yes, we did a lot of chalk art.
Frozen tempera in Texas. Interesting. There are all kinds of art mediums. Do you remember the teacher at our children's preschool, who would take snails and dip them in food coloring, and then the children would set them in different places, and this colorful snail trails would make abstract art. It was really. She was French, so escargot.
All right.
Go ahead.
I have not seen any new questions.
Somebody commented, "Ooh," which
that is
poor snails. Yeah, I think they all went back into the garden afterwards. Like they did their art, and then
I think we had the other teacher who had a 3-week period where she had the little ones climb under their desks, and they pretended to be painting the Sistine Chapel, so they had to paint upside down.
Yeah, lying on their backs.
Yes,
painting up.
I thought that was pretty good for little 3-year-olds.
And I've done. With kindergarten, when we were studying the local indigenous tribes here, the Chumash Indians, we crushed rocks and mixed them with a little bit of oil to make pigments. You can look online. There's all kinds of cool activities to do this. And then they painted them on brown paper bags. So that was a really cool way to connect culturally. That's also something to like really read, multicultural books about different artists and connect that way.
All right. Well, we are just
coffee paint. Someone put in coffee paint. That is so fun because then you're just really focusing on gradations of color. So like if they use a lot of coffee and not very much water, use instant coffee and decaf because you don't want the preschoolers getting any caffeine. And then you can just do like these wonderful sepia toned. Pictures.
I use that when I create textures for the illustrations. I use all sorts of stuff: beet juice, coffee, tea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Courtenay has fun with natural textures and pigments.
Well, thank y'all so much. I'm going to call. I'm actually going to have to. Y'all are going to have to leave. So I can call in our. I can call in the.
Thank you so much,
people.
Yes. Thank you guys all very much for joining us today. We're honored to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Grateful.
It was really fun too.
Yes.
I was nervous, but everything went well and the technology's been great. Thank you guys. And so fun seeing your comments in the chat. So thank you for participating and we loved it.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you again. We'll come back and do the big adventures of Tiny House next.
Okay. All right. So we have to, where do we go?
I'll close you out. Thank you so much. This was
wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And there's Kathy.
And
I'm going to call Tori. I'm calling her in right now. Yep, I'm calling her in right now. So just give her a second. There she is.
There she is.
Hi, everybody. All right. Wasn't that amazing? Courtenay and Susan, you all did a magnificent job. You all have been firing up the chat box, so please send hearts, emojis, claps. Let's send Courtenay and Susan so much love for the wisdom and the love and the energy that they poured into us this morning. We are so thrilled to have them. And I also want to thank all of you for being here with us. By last count, let's see, we have over 1,100 of you online. And I know Kathy, Fletcher, and I are just overjoyed that all of you all took the time to be with us. We hope you learned a lot. We hope this was beneficial. And thank you for sharing your book ideas, your creative art ideas with us in the chat. We will accumulate all those ideas and share them back with you. ChildCareGroup was so honored to help present this morning's session with Voices for Children of San Antonio, but we really could not have done it without Charlotte Ann Lucas and Susan Smiley with Nowcast SA. They've made this amazing technology run so smoothly, and we really do appreciate all your time and effort, Charlotte Ann and Susan, so thank you. And finally, I want to thank our sponsors today, HEB, PNC Bank, and the Judge Andy Morales Foundation. We truly appreciate your support in bringing this free event to so many folks around our state and around our country. And now we'll turn it back over to Kathy.
Okay. I just want to quickly thank Susan and Courtney again. You know, we fell in love with the Rhino book, probably a couple of years ago now. And we connected with them when we were bringing LeVar Burton in to be the keynote speaker at our annual Congress on Children in late September. And they helped us access the books also. And we got as many as we could at the time, knowing they were going to be difficult. So, and thank you also very much to Tori. Tori and I have never worked together before, but it's been great. We're looking for ways to do it again.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned. Couple of things. Make sure you stay for just a few more minutes to get the link for the required post-event survey for your certificates. And they will be mailed to you within 3 days, about 3 days after this event, 3 business days. And don't forget, we can't see each other's works of art with this format, but please take photos of them and submit them to either both Voices for Children and ChildCareGroup's Facebook and Instagram, and we will take it from there. So finally, on behalf of Tori and myself, thank you and appreciation to each one of you. Wherever you are and no matter what role you are playing, remember that our babies and young children are depending on all of us to take care of them, to nurture them, and to guide them through a very difficult time. So we thank you for all you're doing to make that possible. Thanks again for attending, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.